بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تمسك بسنته بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending the salutations upon the Messenger alayhi salatu wassalam, and upon his family, his companions, and upon all those who follow upon his guidance into the establishment of the last day. To proceed, ya ikhwan, فَاللَّهُمَّ إِنَّا نَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ عِلْمٍ لَا يَنْفَعُ وَمِنْ قَلْبٍ لَا يَخْشَعُ وَمِنْ نَفْسٍ لَا تَشْبَعُ وَمِنْ دُعَاءٍ لَا يُسْمَعُ. Verily, Allah, we seek refuge with you from knowledge that has no benefit, and from a heart that has no fear, and from a soul that has no satisfaction, no contentment, and from a dua that goes unanswered, To proceed, ya ikhwan, فبحمد الله تحصلنا على بعض دروس شيخنا وإمامنا أبي عبد الله المصنعي اليمني حفظه الله تعالى وسلمه الله من كل سوء ومكروه. So bihamdillah, we have received some of the lessons of our Shaykh, one of the Imams, one of the scholars that we had the honor to benefit from in the lands of Yemen, Shaikh Masnaee al-Yemeni, may Allah preserve him. فأردنا أن نبدأ بترجمة هذه الدروس, and we just desired to translate some of these classes. والحمدلله. فنبدأ إن شاء الله تعالى في هذه اليوم المبارك عونا من الرحمن الرحيم. So today we're going to begin seeking the aid of our Lord, the most merciful and the most compassionate, في درس مستفيد لطالب العلم الجديد في علم مصطلح الحديث. So today we begin with the lesson designed for the beginner or student of knowledge in the science of al-hadith. لشيخنا أبي عبد الله المصنعي حفظه الله وسلمه الله من كل سوء مكروه. From our Shaykh Abu Abdullah al-Masna'i, may Allah preserve him and protect him from all harms and all evils. وجميع علماء al-Islam, and all of the scholars of al-Islam.
Alhamdulillah, الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، فأهلا وسهلا بكم أيها المستمعون الأعزاء وأيها الإخوة الذين تتابعون هذه الدروس. حياكم الله في درس جديد.
So the Shaykh begins by the name of Allah, or with the name of Allah, the most merciful and the most compassionate, praising Allah Jalla fi'ala, sending the salutations and the prayers of Allah Ta'ala upon His Messenger and His family. As for what follows, so he says, "O my noble brothers and sisters, and all of those who follow in these lessons that we have, today we're going to embark upon a new lesson.
في سلسلة في علم المصطلح.
And it's regarding the series or the chain of classes regarding the science of al-hadith.
ونستفتح هذه السلسلة بدرس بعنوان مفتاح المصطلح.
And we're going to begin these series of classes with the title Miftah al-Mustalah, the key of the science of al-hadith.
يستغرق أياما يسيرة بإذن الله عز وجل.
And these series of classes here, they should only take a small amount of days, if Allah Ta'ala wills.
وبأسلوب سهل ميسر.
And within these series, the intent is to have an easy style, an easy articulation that is easy to grasp.
ولا يخفى أن علم المصطلح يعتبر مفتاحا لعلم الحديث الذي هو أصل العلوم بعد القرآن الكريم.
He says, and there's no doubt, he says, it's not hidden from anyone that the science of mustalah hadith, it is considered to be the key. It is considered to be the key of the knowledge of a hadith. That knowledge of a hadith that is considered to be the foundation of all the sciences after the Quran, the noble Quran.
وهذا العلم شريف المكانة عظيم القدر.
And this particular science, the science of al-Hadith, has a noble and prestigious position.
لا يستغني عنه طالب علم.
That which no student of knowledge goes without being in need of it.
وذلك لأنه بحاجة إلى معرفة صحيح الحديث من ضعيفه.
Because the student of knowledge, he is in need of learning and knowing the difference, or having knowledge of the authentic hadith, al-sahih, and al-da'if, and between the weak hadith.
ليعمل ويعتقد بما صح ولا بد له من معرفة القواعد التي بها يتوصل إلى ذلك.
He says, by way of it, him learning the hadith that is sahih and the hadith that is da'if, the authentic hadith and the weak hadith, by way of it, he will be able to know and to work by and to practice his religion based upon what has been authentically narrated, meaning from the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is a must. And it's upon him to know, to have knowledge of those principles that arrive him to that,
ألا وهي قواعد المصطلح.
And these principles, they are the principles of mustalah al-hadith, the principles of the science of al-hadith.
فقواعد المصطلح مهمة جدا لأنها
So the principles of mustalah hadith, they are extremely important to learn.
وسيلة إلى أمر عظيم ومهم.
Because they are a means that arrives the individual at a tremendous affair, a very important affair. No.
الدرس الأول الحديث الصحيح.
So as for the first class, he says the first lesson that we're going to embark upon is regarding al-hadith al-sahih. Regarding al-hadith al-sahih, the authentic hadith. Al-hadith al-sahih, the hadith that is deemed al-sahih.
تعريف ما اتصل سنده بالرواة الثقات وسلم من العلة.
He says, firstly, let's speak about the definition, the meaning of a hadith al-sahih. What does it mean when you say al-hadith al-sahih, the authentic hadith? He says the definition of al-hadith al-sahih, it is the hadith that its chain is muttasil. Its chain is complete. It has a complete sound, complete chain. And the narrators of such chain, all of them are thiqat. All of them are of the highest level of reliability. All of them are of the highest level of reliability. And this chain is free from al-illah. It is free from having any defects. It is free from having any weaknesses or defects.
إذن فشروط الحديث حتى يكون صحيحا واحد اتصال السند.
So he says, so therefore, from the conditions of authentic hadith, or rather, from the conditions of the hadith to be determined to be authentic, number one, the chain has to be complete. The chain has to be complete.
بحيث يسمع كل راو من شيخه.
He says, meaning it has to be complete, whereas every narrator is narrating that which he heard from his sheikh. He's narrating that which he heard from his sheikh.
الثاني أن رواته ثقات والثقة هو العدل الضابط لحديثه.
So he says, as for the second condition, the narrators of the chain, all of them have to be thiqa. All of them have to be thiqa. They have to be from the highest level of reliability. The highest level of reliability. So it says, al-thiqa here, it is al-adlu al-dabitu li hadith. So he says here, thiqa, it is the one that has this adala. He's going to get into that later, inshallah. And they have this accuracy and this exactness and this precision with regards to what they are narrating.
الثالث أن يسلم من العلة التي تقدح في رتبته كأن ينزل إلى درجة الحسن أو تقدح في صحته.
So he says, as for the third condition, for the hadith to be determined to be authentic, it is that the chain itself, the hadith itself, has to be free from al-illah, free from defects, or free from illnesses, or free from weaknesses. The weakness that will affect its level, that will allow it to be diminished from its level, or the weakness that will affect its authenticity. The weakness that will affect its authenticity.
كما سيأتي بيانه في باب الضعيف والمعلل والشاذ.
He says, and he's going to get into that inshallah ta'ala in the chapter of da'if, when we get to the chapter of the hadith being weak, and the chapter of ashadh, and the chapter of those chapters dealing with weaknesses or those weak narrations.
مثال الحديث الصحيح قال البخاري رحمه الله تعالى حدثنا أبو اليمان عن شعيب عن الزهري أخبرني سالم بن عبد الله عن أبيه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم قال إنما الناس كإبل 100 لا تجد فيها راحلة.
So he says, as for an example of an authentic hadith, he says, Hafidhullah, if you were to take a look at the Sahih of Al-Imam Al-Bukhari, may Allah have mercy upon him. He says, he mentions in his Sahih, he says, Hadathana Abu Yaman. He says that Abu Yaman narrated to us. قال أخبرنا شعيب, who said that Shu'ayb informed us عن الزهري, on the authority of Imam al-Zuhri. قال أخبرني سالم ibn Abdullah ibn Umar. He said that Salim ibn Umar, or ibn Abdullah ibn Umar, informed me عن أبيه, on the authority of his father, who is Abdullah ibn Umar, who said, I heard the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam say, إنما الناس كإبل 100 لا تجد فيها راحلة. He said the Messenger of Allah used to say that the people are like 100 camels, in which you rarely find one being suitable to ride from the 100. So he said the people are like this.
قال الحافظ ابن حجر رحمه الله سنده معدود في أصح الأسانيد.
Imam al-Hafiz ibn Hajar, may Allah have mercy upon him, he used to say this chain here, is considered to be from the most authentic of chains of narration.
لأن رواته كلهم ثقات وقد سمعوا من بعضهم.
He says, because each of the narrators that we mentioned from Bukhari to the Messenger ﷺ, the narrators, all of them are thiqa, they are from the highest level of reliability, and they're narrating what they have heard from their shaykh, from the one that they are narrating from.
فائدة الرواة الذين حديثهم صحيح هم من قيل فيهم.
So he says a benefit. He says some of the narrators that when you find that they have narrated narrations, that their narrations are deemed to be sahih. When you find these narrators, he says their narrations are deemed to be sahih. He says they are the ones that it is said about them. Translator's note. Now he's going to give some descriptions of what the scholars of hadith call or describe the narrators who narrate authentic hadith.
أو كان خلاصة القول فيهم ثقة صدوق.
So he says, or the synopsis, the breakdown of what the scholars say about them. From these descriptions is the word thiqa. When you see thiqa, that someone is saying this man is thiqa. He narrates authentic hadith. Thiqa, from the highest level of reliability. He says another description, thiqatun radi. Thiqatun radi is even higher, in which they say he's from the highest level of reliability, radi, and he's pleased.
رضي ثقة مأمون ثقة ثبت.
And then he goes on to mention a few more. Thiqatun suduq, thiqatun ma'mun, the person is of the highest level of reliability. Suduqun, and he's trustworthy. Thiqatun ma'mun, highest level of reliability, and he's ma'mun, he is trusted or is safe. Thiqatun thabt, that he is from the highest level of reliability, and he is established, he is firm.
ثقة حافظ.
Another one he says, thiqatun hafiz. When you hear this expression, the one who is being described like this narrates authentic hadith. Thiqatun hafiz. He is of the highest level of reliability, and he's a memorizer.
ثقة حافظ حجة.
Sometimes you hear also thiqatun thiqa, in which they emphasize thiqatun thiqa, when they want to show emphasis of how reliable he actually is or she actually is. So they say thiqatun thiqa, that he is of the highest level of reliability, he is of the highest level of reliability. Also you may hear the exception or the expression thiqatun hafidhun thabtun, that he is from the highest level of reliability. Hafidhun, he is a memorizer. Thabtun, and he is also grounded or very grounded.
إليه المنتهى في الحديث أثبت الناس.
He says Hafidhullah, you also may hear إليه المنتهى في التثبيت. When the person says إليه المنتهى, that to him is the ending of tathbeet, like the ending of being grounded stops with him. Expressions of praise. Athbatun nas. You may also hear the phrase Athbatun nas. He is the most grounded of the people. He is the most grounded of the people. All of these descriptions are examples in which the narrators of hadith, they narrate authentic narration. They narrate authentic narrations.
ونحو ذلك من الألفاظ التي تدل على الثقة والضبط.
He says, and similarly to these expressions, these descriptions of those who are being described, who narrate authentic narrations when they are being praised and described in their accuracy, in their thiqah, their reliability.
وأصح الكتب.
He says now, the next point, as for the most authentic of the books, as for the most authentic books, translators note, meaning the books of al-hadith, meaning the books of al-hadith. Translators note, remember these series here from our Shaykh is for the beginner student of hadith. So the Shaykh لا يفصل كثيرا لأن هذه السلسلة تلقى لطالب العلم المبتدئ، طالب العلم المبتدئ أي الجديد. So here remember, these series here that we're going to be dealing with from our Shaykh are designed for the beginner student of knowledge of al-hadith. So the Shaykh, he doesn't dwell into great detail. That's the next series inshallah that we'll get to. But these are for the beginner. Likewise, the books that he's going to mention, some of them are going to be known and some of them are not going to be known. And he's also going to mention some of the books from the ulama of our time. From the ulama of our time. No.
بعد القرآن الكريم هي صحيح البخاري ثم مسلم ثم موطأ مالك.
So he says, remember, the most authentic books after the Quran. After the Quran. He says, regarding hadith, the most authentic books of hadith after the Quran. He says, Sahih al-Bukhari is the most authentic book of al-Hadith after the Quran. Then after al-Bukhari, the most authentic is the Sahih of al-Imam Muslim. He says, and then after that, al-Muwatta, that has been authored by Imam Malik, rahimahullah.
ومن الكتب المعاصرة الصحيح المسند مما ليس في الصحيحين لشيخنا الوادعي رحمه الله تعالى.
And from some of the books, after mentioning some of the books of the Salaf, after Bukhari comes Muslim, after Muslim comes the Muwatta. Translators note, there are many other books the Shaykh could have mentioned. But once again, this is a beginner series for the beginner student of knowledge of al-Hadith. He says, as for some books from the ulama of our time period here, he says from them, Al-Jami' al-Sahih mimma laysa fi sahihain, a tremendous book. He says, an authentic compilation mimma laysa fi sahihain, from those authentic hadith that you do not find in Bukhari and Muslim, written by our Shaykh Muqbil, our Shaykh Masnaee. He says, by our Shaykh Muqbil. I did not study with Shaykh Muqbil rahimahullah. Translators note, all of my mashaykh are from the students of Shaykh Muqbil, like al-Masnaee. So he is saying, like or from our Shaykh Muqbil. So he is our Shaykh Muqbil is his Shaykh directly. So he says, and this book has been authored by our Shaykh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi'i. May Allah have mercy upon him.
ثم السلسلة الصحيحة للإمام الألباني رحمه الله.
He says, and then another book to mention regarding authenticity is the Silsilat al-Sahiha, the authentic series, authentic chain of narrations that has been authored by the great Imam Al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala. May Allah have mercy upon him.
وسائر كتبه.
He says, and also the remaining books of Shaykh Albani regarding al-Hadith.
تصحيحات الألباني تعتبر من أحسن التصحيحات إلى.
He says, those books in which Shaykh Albani has checked and has mentioned these hadith are authentic, are from the best books that have been checked, and the best books of at-Tashih, the best books that determine that these hadith therein are all authentic, And then our Shaykh, he stops here, so we'll stop here inshallah ta'ala with the Shaykh as he makes the dua of closing the gathering. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. فنكتفي بهذا. So we'll stop with our Shaykh بحمد الله الرحمن الرحيم. فإن أصبت فمن الله وإن أخطأت فمن نفسي. Anything that we said that's correct is from Allah. Anything that we said is incorrect is from ourselves. And may Allah bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.